Hello, Year 4. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I also wanted to take part in these presentations that we're doing. Um, I love history, and there are many people that I think have been incredibly inspirational in the past. But I'd like to share one of the people that I find particularly inspirational, and that's a person called Jessie Owens. You might have heard of him. Now, he was an American, and he was born, I think it's about 110, 120 years ago. He was born in the south of the United States. And when he was about 12 or 13, he moved north with his big family to try and find new work for his parents. And at that point, actually, he was originally called JC, just capital J, capital C, and he went to school, but he had this really deep accent from the south of United States. And they asked him, "What's your name?" And he went, JC. And the teacher thought, JC, Jesse. And so everyone started calling him Jesse. And since that day, he became known as Jessie Owens instead of JC Owens. Now, before I talk a bit more about him, it's important that you understand what the world was a bit like in America at that time and lots of other places in the world. Now, Jessie Owens was black. And at that time, if you were not white in America, you didn't have the same opportunities. You might not have been allowed to be in the same restaurant as somebody else. You may not have been allowed to get the same jobs as a white person. You wouldn't have been able to get on the bus in the same place. There were many, many reasons for challenges for people like Jessie Owens at this time. It was wrong. It was unfair. Things have got better since, but it was a very difficult time in America for people like Jessie Owens and in other places around the world too. Now, it's important I talk to you about that because he's one of the people who was a symbol for showing how awful and how wrong this was and how, frankly, how silly it was. Because at about the age of 13, he realised he loved to run. And he ran really fast. And he tried to join some clubs, but the clubs, well, he said, well, yeah, you can't come to our club because you don't look like us. So they wouldn't let him join the club. So he had to go and practice by himself. And he just kept on running because he loved it. And then after a while, he managed to get into university by paying for it himself and for his parents doing extra work. Even though he was a child, he still actually went to work to earn money to get to university. And he was obviously the fastest runner there. But the clubs, again, because of who he was, wouldn't let him take part. And there was only one friendly coach who did put some trust in him and just said, well, you can't train with everyone else, but you could train before everyone else gets to work and before everyone else gets to university, and you could train early in the morning. So Jessie Owens did it, and he started training and running and running and running. He just loved to run, and he was incredibly fast. And he was so good that he had to be part of the team. They couldn't not let him part of the team, even though he wasn't like the rest of them, which was ridiculous, but that's how it was. And he just said, oh, I'm just going to run and let my running show who I am. And then he managed to get into some major competitions in the area of America where he was from. And people say, he won't be any good. People like that aren't very good. And phew, he was very good. He would always win pretty much every race he was part of. And as years went past, he managed to convince people to let him be part of the next level of team, the next race, the next high challenge, the next standard. To the degree that he ended up making it into the National American Championships in 1935. And there he was on the start line of the 100 yards. It's a bit like 100 meters. It's just about the same distance in the final. And all the people there were going, look at him. He's not going to be any good. He's not like us. He's not going to be that fast. He won. And not only did he win, he broke the world record, which completely shocked everyone. And they were starting to think, okay, maybe we are a bit foolish here. About 10 minutes later, it was the 200 meter or 200 yard final. And they looked and went, hey, it's that person again, Jessie Owens. He's on the start line. The last final was only 10 minutes ago. He's going to have no energy for this. How's he going to be able to run fast now. And he's not like us. He's going to be rubbish. Phew! He won that race as well. And he broke the world record. So in the space of 10 minutes, he broke the 100 and the 200 world record, completely made everyone else look foolish. And then about 10, 15 minutes after that, I think it was, definitely within 45 minutes altogether, they looked and went, oh, what's that? Isn't that Jessie Owens again? The one that... He's in the final of the long jump. He's not going to have any energy for that. He's not going to be... He's only just done 2 other events. And off he ran. And his long jump was so long, he broke the world record. Yep, 3 world records in under 45 minutes. People have argued and said that it's probably the greatest hour of sport that anyone has ever produced in history. And for you to know how far he jumped, if you imagine the length of the room that you're currently sat in now, he kind of jumped about that far in one jump, from one end of the room to the other, through the air, and landed. That is incredible. So he proved all of those people wrong. He proved that it didn't matter who you were or what you looked like, you could still have great opportunities and you could still be successful. But that's not the end of his story. The following year, 1936, was the Olympics. Now, the Olympics were in Berlin this year, and unfortunately, Germany was ruled at that time by someone called Adolf Hitler, who, there's nothing that needs to be said other than that he was a horrible person. And of course, he thought that people that weren't like him, didn't look like him, weren't as good and were less. And Jessie Owens went to Berlin and he took part in the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the long jump, and the 4x100 meter relay with his American team. And how many gold medals do you think he won? 4. He won all 4. No one did that again or got close to doing something similar in sprinting for about another 50, 60 years. He made Adolf Hitler and he made that group of people look foolish. And he showed once again that if you are brave, if you just be yourself and do the things that you love, that can show how great you are, and it can show other people that they might not be correct. And that's the person I wanted to talk to you about. His name is Jessie Owens. I love him because I love sport, and I think he shows what athletes are capable of. It's an interesting fact that the speeds he ran over 100 years ago are only a tiny bit slower than the new world record run by Usain Bolt. And he used to run in trainers that he'd only got given the day before, that he was borrowing, and that he was running on kind of like a gravel dirt track, not like the running tracks today. So I wonder whether he might have actually been the fastest in history still. But then I also, I'm really inspired by him because he is a symbol of what humans are capable of, how they can be positive, how we can fight or show ourselves against things that are wrong, and how we can stand up for what is right. There are lots of other people in history, and in American history have got other people like Rosa Parks, you may have heard of, or Martin Luther King. And there are lots of other inspirational people that took part in the movement to end the problems that were happening. I think they're great people to investigate. Thank you for listening to Jessie Owens. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'm going to be quizzing you on him. Enjoy talking with Mrs. Boughton now about what I've said, why he was an amazing person. Maybe she can show you a photo of what he looked like, and enjoy the rest of your talks. Goodbye.